I'm Michael Knorr with Architecture Minute. One of my pet peeves is hearing talk about famous buildings, architecture in travelogues or history documentaries with no mention of the architect. To me, that's like reviewing a book without talking about the author, or talking about music without mentioning the composer. Let's rectify that by playing a little game called Name the Architect. Here's how it works. I will show a well-known work of architecture. You name the architect responsible for the design. There are 5 questions in part 1. The questions are rated moderate in degree of difficulty. We'll score the answers at the end. If you want to pause this video to get paper and pencil, do it now. Number 1. This is a spectacular museum in a Midwestern American city. Name the famous Spanish architect who designed it. 2. This is one of the most dramatic houses from the mid-20th century. It has been showcased in many movies like The Big Lebowski. The architect is not a one-hit wonder either, having designed many notable mid-century modern landmarks. Name the architect. Number 3 is Villa Barbaro in northern Italy, also known as Villa di Macer. This architect is so famous, he has an entire style named after him. Who is the architect? 4. This pair of buildings may look quite ordinary today, but in 1949, when construction started, they shook the architecture world and firmly embedded the international style in the American consciousness. 5 is another museum. This one, probably the most photographed museum in modern architecture. It started a museum building craze around the world as cities realized that architecture can also be a tourist attraction. Number 1 is the Milwaukee Art Museum on Lake Michigan. The architect is Santiago Calatrava. Calatrava is one of those rare architects who is also a structural engineer. It shows in his works, which always showcase muscular structure supporting flowing, sensuous shapes. 2. The house making appearances in many films is the Goldstein house in Los Angeles. The architect is John Lautner, one of my architectural heroes. 3. Villa Barbaro was designed by architect Andrea Palladio. When you hear the term Palladian architecture, it started in the 16th century with buildings like this by Palladio. 4 is Lakeshore Towers in Chicago, and the architect is Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, a name synonymous with the international style. 5. The museum in Bilbao, Spain that sparked a museum building craze is by architect Frank Gehry. That's our 5 questions. If you got 4 or 5 correct, you are definitely architecture savvy, an architecture savant, and probably an architect or architecture student. 2 or 3 correct, you are a knowledgeable architecture buff. 1 correct is not bad, considering how rarely architects are given credit for their work. If you weren't able to name any architect, well, you can still appreciate architecture even if you don't always know the source. Thanks for playing. See you again next time for part 2 of Name the Architect.